Hi, welcome back. This is lesson 1 and I have the live audience again. I would like to go over the meaning of the sentences. Have you been practicing this? We, the human species, are confronting a planetary emergency. But what's this? Well, I'll explain them. So these are the sentences you'll be practicing, and I'll check the meaning of each sentence, each line carefully with you. If you don't understand after listening to my explanation, you can give me a comment and I can answer it anytime. But here we go. We, the human species. Let's practice. We, the human species. And maybe you understand we. Maybe you understand human. But this one, species. Yeah, you practice the pronunciation species. But what does that mean? We, the human species. It says, a group of animals or plants whose members are similar and can breed together to produce young animals or plants. Do you understand? This is very interesting, isn't it? Species. Species is a group of animals or plants. Human, animals, part of animals. A group of animals whose members are similar. Are humans similar? Japanese, American similar? Yeah, similar, right? And can breed together. What does that mean? Breed together. Can make a baby to produce young animals or plants. So that's the definition of species. And we, the human species. And this has a strong sound. Let me explain. Normally in Japanese, we tend to say, 私たち日本人は、私たちは. But in English, we don't usually say it. We are confronting a planetary emergency is a normal English sentence. But he intentionally said, we, the human species. Of course, to emphasize the meaning we. Who are we? We are a group of people together, similar people. We, the human species. And species are often used like this. Bird species, animal species, plant species, endangered species, protected species, rare species, new species. Bird, animal, okay. Plant, okay. How about endangered, by the way? Endangered species. We often hear this word, endangered species. Endangered species are the species that are dying, no longer existing, extinct. So endangered species, or protected species, almost similar. They should be protected. Protected species, rare species, new species. So those are normal use of species. And of course, we sometimes say human species. But to say we, the human species, in the speech, this is something special. And we, the Americans, President Reagan said this in the speech. When you say this, this is more like a military phrase. It's strong. It's a strong sentence. I just want you to understand. When you say we, the human species, it's a strong beginning. It's not the normal beginning. But you understand species. Okay. We, the human. Let's practice speaking. 1, 2, 3.
We, the human species.
Good. Are
confronting a planetary emergency.
You practice, right? All right. Confront. You said confronting. What's the meaning? Confront? To deal with something very difficult. When you are confronting something, you are dealing with something very difficult. You're talking about something very difficult or unpleasant. Okay? You deal with something. Deal with means you face and struggle and you tackle something very difficult or unpleasant in a brave and determined way. So we, the human species, are confronting something very difficult, something maybe unpleasant, but in a brave way, in a determined way. Let's do this. Confronting planetary emergency. Emergency. Let me explain emergency. Emergency is unexpected, and dangerous situation that must be dealt with immediately. Right? So, confronting an emergency, dangerous situation, and he's saying a planetary emergency. This is not normal, because emergency usually comes with this: serious emergency, extreme emergency, major emergency, sudden emergency, unexpected emergency. But he's saying a planetary emergency. Serious. Planetary, of course, comes from the word planet. Planet Earth. So he's talking about, this is so big, not just a major, serious, extreme, unexpected, but planetary emergency. Human species versus planet. And we, the human species, are confronting a planetary emergency. It's so big. Do you understand? Planetary emergency. And then he continued, a threat to the survival of our civilization. What's a threat? Someone or something that is regarded as possible danger. A threat. So he is talking about emergency. What is emergency? It's a threat. It's something that is really dangerous. Possible danger to what? Threat also comes from serious, major threat, biggest threat, greatest, real, immediate threat. But the threat to the survival, the state of continuing to live or exist. What? Civilization. All the societies in the world considered as a whole. So all the societies' survival is in danger. Okay? So we, the human species, are confronting a planetary emergency, and he's trying to emphasize the meaning of planetary emergency by using the word a threat to the survival of our civilization. He could have said like a real threat to the survival of our civilization, or he could have said the biggest threat to the survival of a civilization, I suppose. We, the human species, are confronting a planetary emergency, the greatest threat to the survival of a civilization. But he simply said a threat to the survival of civilization. And then, let's read together. That is gathering ominous and destructive potential, even as we gather here. Yeah. So what's the word? Ominous? Ominous. Making you feel that something bad is going to happen. Ominous is often used like this. Ominous events. Repeat after me. Ominous events. What does that mean? Ominous events. Events that you feel something bad is going to happen. Ominous silence. Silence. Sometimes you feel scared. Ominous sound. Okay. Ominous sign. Right? And he's saying ominous potential. And I'm going to explain potential soon. But ominous and destructive. So he's emphasizing the word ominous by saying destructive. Not just you feel something bad is going to happen, but causing damage to people or things. Destructive is often used like destructive power, destructive effects, destructive emotion, destructive relationship. Okay? Damaging. It's not only dangerous, but also damaging, not just bad. Alright, let's read it together from the beginning. We the human species, are confronting a planetary emergency, a threat to the survival of our civilization that is gathering ominous and destructive potential, even as we gather here. And maybe you want to know the meaning of? Yes, potential. Right? So that's the next word we want to study. Potential. Potential is the possibility that something will develop in a particular way or have a particular effect. And potential is often used in this way. Great potential. Full potential. He developed his full potential. True potential. Economic potential. Leadership potential. Star potential. He has star potential. Means he can be a star. So they all sound positively. And potential is often used positively. But sometimes it can be used in a bad way, developed in a particular way. Better or worse? He's talking about worse, bad way. Because he said ominous and destructive potential. Potential in one word is possibility. Okay? And power. Even as we gather here. And I think you know the word gather. But what's gather? Two meanings. One is to collect, gradually become more cloudy and get darker. And the other one is come together. And I'm sure you know the second one, gather, come together. Even as we gather here. Even as we gather here. But you see, there are two gathers here. That is gathering ominous and destructive potential even as we gather here. So that's how he was using the word gather cleverly. Gather has two meanings. The first gather, that is gathering ominous and destructive potential, that's gradually becoming more cloudy and get darker. Collecting something that is going to happen that you are scared of. So sometimes you can use the gather that way. So gathering ominous and destructive potential even as we gather here. And they are having, of course, a ceremony. And that's a wonderful thing, bright stage and everything. But even as we gather here, planetary emergency, a threat to the survival of civilization, is gathering ominous and destructive potential. So I want you to understand the meaning of gather here too. Two different meanings. And then practice this. One more time. 1, 3. We, the human species, are confronting a planetary emergency, a threat to the survival of our civilization that is gathering ominous and destructive potential, even as we gather here. And now that you understand the meaning of each word more, I want you to think about the meaning and practice recitation too. For example, I want you to really slow down and say, we, who are we? You ask yourself, we, who are we? The human species. We're a group of people together. We're a group of animals together, same kind. We, the human species, are confronting something to do with braveness. A planetary emergency. It's not just any emergency, a planetary emergency. So you go, we, the human species, are confronting a planetary emergency. And let me explain what kind of emergency it is. It's a threat to the survival of our civilization, everything we have in societies, a threat to the survival of our civilization. That is gathering, this threat is gathering, collecting ominous and destructive potential, possibility, terrible possibility, even as we gather here. Okay, so you go like, we, the human species, are confronting a planetary emergency, a threat to the survival of our civilization that is gathering ominous and destructive potential, even as we gather here. And sometimes you change the speed. We, the human species, are confronting us. You see? And then you think about how you would say it at the end, in your own way. And that's a challenge of the recitation. And I will be teaching you how I want you to practice speaking as we go on. I'm going to help you understand how you may be able to use your hands, move on stage. But this time, rather than focusing on hand gestures and stage movement first, I want you to focus on the meaning. And I want you to really understand the meaning better by studying more about global warming. Like, what's the planetary emergency? Why is he saying this is gathering ominous and destructive potential more in detail? And enjoy reciting this speech. All right, so that's the meaning part of lesson 1. Thank you very much.